The mother everyone hated. Chapter 1. The verdict came before the trial. Most people believe justice begins inside a courtroom. This case proved the opposite. By the time Sarah Mitchell walked through the courthouse doors, millions of people had already decided she was guilty. Outside, television crews lined the sidewalks before sunrise. Satellite trucks blocked 2 city blocks. Reporters rehearsed their opening lines while photographers fought for the best position near the entrance. People had traveled from neighboring states just to witness the woman the media called America's most hated mother. Some held candles. Others carried signs. "Lock her away. Justice for Ethan." A few shouted insults every time a police vehicle appeared. Nobody waited to hear the evidence. Nobody wanted another version of the story. In their minds, the trial was only a formality. The verdict had already been delivered by public opinion. At exactly 8:42 a.m., a gray prison transport stopped in front of the courthouse. The crowd fell silent. The rear door opened. Sarah stepped onto the pavement. She was 38 years old. For 14 years, she had taught English literature at Jefferson Middle School. Parents trusted her with their children. Students described her as patient and kind. Every December, she organized charity drives for struggling families. Every Saturday, she volunteered at the local food bank with her son. 6 months earlier, local newspapers had published photographs of her receiving the city's Community Service Award. Now, those same newspapers printed a different photograph. One taken after her arrest. No smile, no makeup, handcuffs. The headline simply read, "The Mother Who Poisoned Her Son." Sarah kept her eyes on the ground. Not because she felt ashamed, because looking at the crowd hurt too much. The voices blended together. Murderer. Monster. She deserves life. Someone threw a plastic bottle. It landed only a few feet away. A deputy quickly escorted her inside. The heavy courthouse doors closed behind her. The shouting disappeared instantly. Only silence remained. Courtroom 3 looked more like a theater than a courtroom. Every seat was occupied. The jury watched quietly as Sarah took her place beside her attorney. Across the room stood Daniel Carter, 33, former military prosecutor, known for never speaking more than necessary. This was his first murder trial as a defense attorney. Many experienced lawyers had refused the case. Some believed Sarah was guilty. Others feared destroying their careers by defending the most hated woman in the country. Daniel accepted for a different reason. He had spent 11 years in military courts. One lesson had stayed with him. Evidence tells the truth. People often don't. He opened a thin file. Only one notebook, one pen, no dramatic gestures, no stack of papers. The prosecutor noticed and smiled. He whispered to his assistant, "He doesn't even know what he's walking into." Daniel heard him. He didn't respond. He simply looked toward Sarah. She hadn't spoken a single word since sitting down. Her hands rested quietly on the table. Between her fingers was a tiny silver necklace, a 5-pointed star. It had belonged to Ethan. She hadn't let go of it since the day he died. Judge William Harper entered. "All rise." The room stood. The trial that had divided an entire nation was finally about to begin. The prosecutor walked toward the jury with complete confidence. He smiled politely, then stopped. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not complicated. It is about betrayal. The greatest betrayal imaginable. A mother who took the life of the only child who trusted her completely." Several jurors lowered their eyes. One woman quietly wiped away a tear. The prosecutor continued. "The evidence will show that Sarah Mitchell was alone with 12-year-old Ethan on the night he died. The poison that killed him was found inside her kitchen."
Her fingerprints were on the container. There were no signs of forced entry. No unknown visitors. No missing property. There was only one person inside that house. He slowly turned toward Sarah, and she is sitting right there. Silence. Absolute silence. The prosecutor returned to his seat. Judge Harper looked toward the defense table. "Mr. Carter, your opening statement." Daniel stood. He carried nothing except a single photograph. He walked toward the evidence screen, placed the photograph beneath the camera. The image appeared on the large monitor. A perfectly ordinary kitchen. Table, coffee mug, window, wall clock, nothing unusual. Daniel looked at the jury, then quietly asked, "Before this trial ends, I want every one of you to remember this photograph." He pointed toward the clock hanging on the wall. "Because this clock proves that someone has been lying." He paused, and it wasn't Sarah Mitchell.
The perfect investigation. The prosecutor wasted no time. For nearly 2 hours, witness after witness repeated the same story. A neighbor claimed she had heard Sarah arguing with Ethan just hours before his death. A delivery driver testified that Sarah looked furious when she answered the front door that afternoon. A forensic technician explained that Sarah's fingerprints had been found on the medicine bottle containing the fatal poison. Piece by piece, the puzzle appeared complete. Every answer seemed to point in exactly one direction: Sarah Mitchell. Even the jurors began taking fewer notes. When a case feels obvious, people stop asking questions. Daniel Carter noticed it immediately. That worried him more than any piece of evidence, because certainty was often the greatest enemy of truth. The next witness was Detective Robert Hayes, 26 years with the police department, a respected investigator, the lead detective on the case. The prosecutor smiled. "Detective Hayes, did your investigation uncover any evidence that another person entered the Mitchell home on the night Ethan died?" "No." "Were there any signs of forced entry?" "No." "Any damaged windows?" "No." "Any missing property?" "No." "So, based on your investigation, was there any reason to believe anyone besides Sarah Mitchell was responsible?" "None." The prosecutor nodded confidently. "No further questions." Several jurors looked towards Sarah with expressions that seemed colder than before. The prosecutor sat down. Judge Harper turned toward the defense. "Mr. Carter, your witness." Daniel remained seated for a moment. He slowly closed his notebook, then stood. He walked toward the detective without carrying a single document. That immediately caught the prosecutor's attention. Young lawyers usually carried thick folders. Daniel carried nothing. He stopped a few feet away. "Good morning, Detective." "Good morning. You've investigated homicide cases for 26 years?" "That's correct." "And you've testified in court more than 100 times?" "Approximately." "So mistakes are rare?" "They are." Daniel smiled politely. "I agree." The courtroom relaxed. The prosecutor leaned back in his chair. This was going exactly as expected. Then Daniel asked a question that seemed completely unrelated. "Detective, when you entered the Mitchell home, what was the very first thing you noticed?" The detective hesitated. "The mother. She was trying to revive her son." Daniel nodded. "Was she screaming?" "Yes." "Crying?" "Yes." "Did she attempt to flee?" "No." "Did she refuse to cooperate?" "No." "Did she ask for a lawyer before speaking with police?" "No." The detective paused. "No." She answered every question. Daniel looked toward the jury, then back at the detective. "So from the first minute, she behaved like a desperate mother trying to save her child." The prosecutor immediately stood. "Objection. Counsel is leading the witness." "Sustained." Daniel simply nodded. He had expected the objection. He returned to the defense table, picked up a single sheet of paper, the first document he had used all morning. He walked back. "Detective Hayes, you stated under oath that the crime scene remained untouched until your team arrived." "Correct." Daniel placed the paper on the witness stand. "Would you please read the timestamp printed on the first crime scene photograph?" The detective adjusted his glasses. 8:17 p.m. "Thank you." Daniel picked up another photograph. "And this one?" 8:19. "One more." 8:23. Daniel turned toward the jury. No expression, no dramatic voice, just one quiet sentence. "Interesting." Then he faced the detective again. "Detective, if the first official photograph was taken at 8:17 p.m., who took the photograph marked 7:42 p.m.? Silence. The detective frowned. "What photograph?"
Daniel slowly held up a fourth image, one that no one in the courtroom had seen before.
The prosecutor's confident smile disappeared. The judge leaned forward. Even Sarah looked up for the first time, because someone had photographed the Mitchell kitchen 35 minutes before the police officially arrived. And according to every report in the case, that should have been impossible. The photograph that didn't exist. No one spoke. Not the prosecutor, not the jurors, not even Judge Harper. Every eye in the courtroom was fixed on the photograph in Daniel Carter's hand. The timestamp was clear, 7:42 p.m. Detective Robert Hayes stared at it for several seconds before speaking. "I have never seen that photograph." Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the evidence monitor and placed the image beneath the document camera. The kitchen appeared on the large screen. At first glance, everything looked ordinary. A wooden table, a coffee cup, a school backpack resting beside a chair. Nothing unusual. Daniel looked at the jury. "Do you recognize this room?" The detective nodded. "It's the Mitchell kitchen. And you're certain?" "Yes." Daniel waited, then quietly asked, "Then why isn't this photograph included anywhere in the investigation?" The prosecutor rose immediately. "Objection! The defense has not established the source of this document." Judge Harper looks toward Daniel. "Can you establish its origin, Mr. Carter?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." He reached into his folder. This image was obtained from the automatic cloud backup of Detective Hayes' department-issued camera. The room froze. Even the court reporter stopped typing for a brief moment. Daniel continued. The department believed the file had been deleted, but the cloud server preserved an earlier version. The prosecutor turned sharply toward Detective Hayes. The detective looked genuinely confused. "I never deleted anything." Daniel studied his face. For the first time, he believed the detective was telling the truth. If Hayes hadn't deleted the file, then someone else had. Someone with access to police evidence. The prosecutor quickly regained control. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said confidently, "one unexplained photograph does not change the facts. The defendant's fingerprints remain on the poison container. The toxicology report remains unchanged. The child is still dead." Several jurors nodded. Daniel expected that reaction. He wasn't trying to win today. He was trying to plant doubt. Real doubt. The kind that grows quietly. The kind that cannot be ignored once it begins. During the lunch recess, Daniel walked alone into the courthouse parking garage. He couldn't stop thinking about the deleted image. Someone had entered the evidence system. Someone had removed a photograph. But why delete only one? He opened the digital copy again on his phone, for the 100th time. Still nothing. Kitchen, table, clock, coffee mug, backpack, window. His eyes moved across the room once more. Then suddenly, he stopped. His breathing slowed. He zoomed in, not on the clock, not on the table, on the reflection inside the kitchen window. There, barely visible, was the outline of a man standing outside the house. Not inside, outside, watching. Daniel enlarged the image again. The face was impossible to identify, but one detail remained perfectly clear. The man was wearing a bright yellow rain jacket. Daniel immediately checked the weather report from that night. Heavy rain. Of course. Whoever stood outside expected to be there. He had come prepared. Daniel whispered to himself, Sarah wasn't alone. And for the first time since accepting the case, he believed she might truly be innocent. That evening, Daniel drove to the Mitchell house. The police tape had long been removed. The home stood empty, dark, silent. He walked to the exact position where the unknown figure had been standing. From there, he could see directly into Ethan's bedroom, without anyone inside noticing. Someone had been watching that family long before Ethan died. Daniel looked across the street. A small convenience store. A faded security camera pointed toward the intersection. Old, weathered, probably forgotten. He smiled for the first time in weeks. If that camera was working, someone just made a very serious mistake. The camera across the street. Daniel Carter barely slept.
The image of the man in the yellow rain jacket kept replaying in his mind. Someone had been watching the Mitchell house. The question was no longer if. The question was why. At sunrise, Daniel parked across the street from the old convenience store. The building looked forgotten. Peeling paint, dusty windows, a faded sign that hadn't been replaced in years. Inside, an elderly man was arranging newspapers on a shelf. Daniel introduced himself. "My name is Daniel Carter. I'm representing Sarah Mitchell." The man sighed. "I knew someone would come eventually." Daniel frowned. "You were expecting me?" The old man nodded. "Not you specifically, but someone." He disappeared into a small storage room. A minute later, he returned carrying a dusty cardboard box. Inside were dozens of hard drives. "Our security system automatically saves everything," he explained, "even after we replace the cameras." Daniel's heartbeat quickened. "Do you still have the recordings from October 18th? The man thought for a moment. "I think so." For nearly an hour, they searched through old files. Nothing. Another folder. Nothing. Then, a video appeared. Timestamp, 7:36 p.m. Daniel leaned closer. The Mitchell house stood across the street. Rain poured steadily. Cars passed. Nothing unusual. For 5 long minutes, nothing happened. Then a dark SUV slowly entered the frame. It stopped 50 meters from Sarah's house. The engine remained running. Daniel paused the video. No license plate. The rain completely covered it. He pressed play again. A man stepped out. Yellow rain jacket. Exactly like the figure in the reflection. He didn't go to the front door. He didn't ring the bell. He simply stood across the street, watching the house, for almost 12 minutes. Then, another person appeared. A woman. She walked toward the SUV carrying a large backpack. She spoke briefly with the man. The backpack changed hands. She hurried away. The SUV drove off. Daniel froze. He replayed the clip, again and again. The woman never entered Sarah's house, but she clearly knew the man. Who was she? Why meet in the rain? And what was inside that backpack? Daniel copied the video onto a flash drive. As he stood to leave, the store owner quietly said, "I never gave this recording to the police." Daniel stopped. "Why not?" The old man looked embarrassed. "They never asked." Daniel slowly closed his eyes. Weeks of investigation, hundreds of pages of evidence, dozens of interviews, yet no one had checked the only camera facing the Mitchell house. For the first time, he wasn't just questioning the investigation. He was beginning to wonder whether someone had wanted certain evidence to remain hidden. Daniel looked once more at the paused image. The unknown woman had turned slightly toward the camera. Her face was still blurred by the rain, but one detail was unmistakable. Around her neck hung a silver pendant shaped like a butterfly. The exact same butterfly pendant that Ethan's teacher had been wearing during her testimony. Daniel whispered, "No, this can't be a coincidence." He grabbed his phone and called his investigator. "We need everything on Ethan's school, every teacher, every employee, and start with the woman wearing the butterfly necklace." Silence filled the car. Then the investigator replied with a sentence Daniel would never forget. "Daniel, I've already seen that necklace before, but not at the school."
The woman who was never supposed to exist.
Daniel arrived at Ethan's school before sunrise. The parking lot was almost empty. A cold wind carried yesterday's rain across the asphalt. Inside, the principal looked nervous. "You already questioned every teacher," she said. Daniel nodded. "I know. I'm here because someone lied." The principal's smile disappeared. Minutes later, the staff gathered in the teacher's lounge. One by one, Daniel looked at every face. Then, he saw it. The silver butterfly pendant, exactly like the one in the security footage. It belonged to Emily Foster, Ethan's science teacher, the same woman who had testified under oath 3 days earlier. Daniel greeted her politely. "Ms. Foster? May I ask where you were on the evening of October 18th? She answered immediately. "At home." Alone? All evening. Daniel quietly placed a tablet on the table. He pressed play. The grainy security footage filled the screen. Rain, the SUV, the woman, the butterfly pendant. Emily's face slowly lost all color. That's not. She couldn't finish the sentence. The room fell silent. Daniel spoke softly. You told this court you never left your house. She whispered. I was afraid. Afraid of what? She looked toward the door, as if someone might be listening. Then tears rolled down her face. I wasn't afraid of the police. I was afraid of him. Daniel leaned forward. Who? Emily shook her head. I can't tell you. If I do, someone else will die. Every teacher in the room stared at her in disbelief. Daniel realized something terrifying. Emily wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting someone she loved, or someone who still controlled her. That afternoon, Daniel requested an emergency court hearing. The courtroom filled within minutes. Reporters rushed back inside. Everyone expected another legal argument. Instead, Daniel called only one witness, Emily Foster. She walked to the stand with trembling hands. The prosecutor smiled confidently. One frightened teacher couldn't change the case. Judge Harper asked, Do you swear to tell the truth? Emily closed her eyes. For several seconds, she couldn't speak. Finally, I do. Daniel asked only one question. Ms. Foster, did you lie under oath? The courtroom froze. Emily looked toward Sarah. Sarah simply nodded, not with anger, with compassion. That small gesture broke her. Emily burst into tears. Yes, I lied. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. The prosecutor stood up instantly. Objection! But Judge Harper raised his hand. Sit down. Emily continued. I wasn't at home. I met someone. Daniel asked quietly. Who? Emily's lips trembled. She whispered a single name. The courtroom exploded. Even Judge Harper stood from his chair, because the name she had just spoken belongs to the lead investigator on the case, Detective Robert Hayes. The very detective who had insisted Sarah Mitchell acted alone. The same detective who claimed no one else had been near the house. The same detective whose camera contained the missing photograph. Daniel slowly closed his notebook. For the first time since the trial began, the prosecutor looked frightened. Because if Emily was telling the truth, the entire investigation was beginning to collapse. The detective's secret. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed toward the doors. Phones rang across the room. Within minutes, every news channel carried the same headline. Lead detective accused of hiding evidence. Judge Harper struck the gavel. Order! It took nearly 2 minutes before silence returned. Detective Robert Hayes remained seated. His expression never changed. Then, unexpectedly, he stood up. I'd like permission to speak. The prosecutor immediately objected, but Judge Harper allowed it. Hayes walked to the center of the courtroom. He wasn't angry. He wasn't nervous. He looked exhausted. I did meet Emily Foster that night. The room froze again. Daniel stared at him. So she told the truth? Yes. You lied under oath? Yes. A wave of whispers swept through the courtroom. Daniel stepped closer. Why? Hayes lowered his head. Because I made a promise. A promise to whom? Hayes looked toward Sarah, then toward Ethan's empty chair, where his photograph rested beside the judge's bench. Finally, he answered, To Ethan. No one understood. Daniel frowned. What does that mean? Hayes reached into his jacket. Slowly, he removed a small blue notebook. It was worn. The corners were bent. A child's handwriting covered the front. Ethan Mitchell. Sarah gasped. My God. Daniel looked at her. You recognize it? Tears filled her eyes. It disappeared the night he died. Hayes carefully placed the notebook on the evidence table. I found it under Ethan's bed. I never logged it into evidence. The prosecutor stepped forward. You deliberately hid evidence? Hayes nodded. Yes. Why? The detective closed his eyes. Because after reading it, I realized this case wasn't what everyone believed. Daniel opened the notebook. The first pages looked ordinary. Homework, drawings, soccer scores. Then, the handwriting changed. The letters became uneven, rushed, afraid. One sentence was underlined 3 times. If anything happens to me, it wasn't Mom. Silence. Sarah covered her mouth. Daniel turned another page. There was a list of dates, names, times. Every entry ended the same way. The man in the black SUV came back. Another page. He watches the house. Another. He knows when Mom is working. Another. I think he followed me from school. Daniel felt a chill run through his body. Someone had been stalking Ethan. Not for one day, not for 1 week, for months. Hayes finally spoke. I wanted more time. I thought if the killer learned about this notebook, he'd disappear forever. Daniel looked up. So you lied to catch the real killer. Hayes didn't answer. Instead, he slowly reached into his pocket one more time. This time, he placed a folded photograph beside the notebook. Daniel unfolded it. His face turned pale. It showed Ethan, standing beside a smiling man. The date in the corner had been taken 2 weeks before Ethan died. Sarah whispered, I've never seen that man before. Hayes looked directly at Daniel. That's because he never introduced himself with his real name. Daniel turned the photograph over. On the back, only 4 handwritten words. He said he's family. Daniel's heartbeat stopped. If Ethan believed the man was family, then the killer had not forced his way into the house. Ethan had opened the door himself. The man Ethan trusted. No one moved. Daniel kept staring at the photograph. The smiling man looked ordinary. Mid-40s, clean-shaven, dark baseball cap, friendly smile. The kind of face people forgot within minutes. That made him even more dangerous. Daniel turned to Sarah. Are you absolutely certain you've never seen him? She studied the picture again, for almost a minute. Then, her breathing changed. She slowly raised her eyes. I've seen him. Daniel leaned forward. Where? I don't know his name, but he came to Ethan's soccer games. The courtroom fell silent. Sarah closed her eyes, trying to remember. I thought he was another parent. He always stayed far away. He never spoke to me. But Ethan waved at him once. Daniel's heart sank. Why didn't you tell the police? No one ever showed me this photograph. The next morning, Daniel visited Ethan's soccer club. The coach unlocked an old storage room. Boxes filled with forgotten equipment lined the walls. We keep everything, the coach said. Even old attendance records. Daniel wasn't looking for paperwork. He was looking for photographs, tournament photos, team celebrations, birthday parties. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, one picture slipped from a dusty album. Every player smiled at the camera. Parents stood behind them. Daniel scanned the crowd. One face, there, half hidden behind another parent. The same man, the same smile, the same baseball cap. He had been attending games for nearly a year without anyone noticing. Do you know who he is? Daniel asked. The coach frowned. I always assumed he was someone's uncle. No one ever asked. Daniel looked again. Then he noticed something else. The man wasn't watching the team. He wasn't watching the coach. He wasn't even looking at the camera. His eyes were fixed only on Ethan. Daniel requested every visitor log from Ethan's school, every volunteer list, every security record. Nothing. The man didn't exist. No name, no address, no employment, no fingerprints in any database connected to the case. It was as if someone had erased him completely. Late that night, Daniel's phone rang. Private number. He answered. Silence. Then a man's voice, calm, almost friendly. You should stop asking questions. Daniel didn't respond. The voice continued. You've already made one mistake. Don't make another. The call ended. Seconds later, a text message arrived. There was no text, only a photograph. Daniel opened it. His blood ran cold. Someone had taken a picture of him, standing outside his own apartment, less than 10 minutes earlier. He rushed to the window. The street below was empty. The black SUV was gone. The next morning, Daniel walked into the courtroom looking more tired than anyone had ever seen him. The prosecutor noticed immediately. Long night? Daniel ignored him. Judge Harper entered. The jury took their seats. Before anyone could speak, a court officer hurried toward the judge and handed him a sealed envelope. Judge Harper opened it. His expression changed instantly. This court, he paused, has just received new DNA results. The prosecutor smiled. Daniel didn't, because the judge wasn't smiling either. Judge Harper looked directly at Sarah, then at Daniel. Finally, he spoke. These results change everything we believed about Ethan Mitchell. The courtroom held its breath. The judge slowly lifted the report. According to this analysis, one person in this courtroom has been living with a lie for 12 years. And the name printed at the top of the report wasn't Sarah Mitchell's. It wasn't Detective Hayes's. It wasn't Emily Foster's. It was Ethan Mitchell.
The DNA report. No one in the courtroom breathed. Judge Harper held the envelope in his hands. Even the prosecutor looked confused. Mr. Carter, I believe you should see this first. Daniel walked slowly toward the bench. His hands trembled as he opened the report. One sentence immediately caught his attention. Paternity probability, 0.00%. He read it again, then a third time. His face turned pale. Sarah watched him anxiously. What is it? Daniel looked at her. Sarah, the report says Michael Mitchell wasn't Ethan's biological father. Silence. Sarah stared at him as if she hadn't understood. No, that's impossible. Judge Harper looked at the jury. The court will take a short recess. But no one moved. Everyone wanted answers. Daniel gently placed the report on the table. Sarah, did Michael ever know? Tears filled her eyes. No. He died believing Ethan was his son? Daniel nodded. I believe you. But someone else knew. After the recess, Daniel met Detective Hayes in a small conference room. Hayes closed the door. There's something I never told anyone. Daniel folded his arms. I'm listening. Hayes took a deep breath. When I searched Michael Mitchell's office, I found a locked safe. Inside was a single envelope. Daniel frowned. What was inside? Hayes answered quietly. A letter, written 2 weeks before Michael died. Daniel's pulse quickened. Where is it? Hayes hesitated. I kept it. Daniel stared at him. You hid another piece of evidence? I wasn't sure it mattered. Hayes removed an old envelope from his briefcase. The paper had yellowed with age. Across the front, one line was written in blue ink. If anything happens to me, Sarah must never read this. Daniel carefully unfolded the letter. The handwriting was shaky, almost desperate. Sarah, if you're reading this, it means I was too late. Someone has been asking questions about Ethan. If they discover the truth, he won't be safe. Daniel stopped reading. His heart raced. The room was silent. Hayes whispered, I never understood what he meant. Daniel continued, I made a promise 12 years ago. I thought I was protecting our family. Now I know I only delayed what was coming. The final sentence froze everyone in the room. The man calling himself Uncle David is not who he claims to be. Daniel slowly lowered the letter. Uncle David? Hayes looked confused.
"Who is that?" Daniel answered without looking up. "The man in the photograph." That evening, Daniel visited Sarah in the detention center. She looked exhausted. He placed the letter in front of her. She read it once, then again. Her hands began to shake. Finally, she whispered, "There was a man. He came to the hospital the day Ethan was born." Daniel's eyes widened. "What did he want?" "He congratulated us. I thought he was one of Michael's relatives. He smiled and said something I'll never forget." Sarah closed her eyes. "He looked at Ethan and said, 'I'll come back for him one day.'" Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. For 12 years, everyone believed Ethan had been living an ordinary life, but someone had been waiting, patiently, silently, for the right moment. And now Daniel understood one terrifying fact. Ethan had never been chosen by chance. He had been the target from the day he was born.
The witness who never spoke. Daniel couldn't stop thinking about one sentence.
"I'll come back for him one day." Who says something like that to a newborn child? It wasn't a threat. It sounded like a promise. The next morning, Daniel visited the city archives. He wasn't looking for police files anymore. He was looking for hospital records, birth records, visitor logs, anything connected to the day Ethan was born. Hours passed. Nothing. Then an elderly archivist approached him. "You're searching the wrong year." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" The old woman smiled sadly. "That hospital burned down. Most records were destroyed." Daniel felt his last hope slipping away. Then she added, "But not all of them." She disappeared into the back room. 5 minutes later, she returned with a small fireproof box. There was one backup. Inside, only 18 pages had survived. Daniel carefully turned them one by one. Page 14, Visitor Register, October 12th, Sarah Mitchell, Michael Mitchell, Nurse Kelly Owens, Dr. Richard Collins. One more name, David Cole. Relationship to patient, family friend. Daniel's pulse quickened. The mysterious man had signed his own name, or at least, the name he wanted people to believe. An hour later, Daniel tracked down the retired nurse. Kelly Owens was 74 years old. She lived alone in a quiet house outside the city. When she heard Ethan's name, she immediately sat down. "I knew this day would come." Daniel remained silent. Sometimes silence makes people tell the truth. Kelly looked toward an old photograph hanging on the wall. "I remember Sarah." She was terrified. Daniel asked quietly, "Why?" Kelly hesitated, then whispered, "Because someone kept calling the hospital." They weren't asking about Sarah. They were asking whether the baby had survived. Daniel felt a chill. "Who was calling?" "I never knew. They never gave a name." Kelly stood slowly. She opened an old wooden cabinet. From the very back, she removed a sealed envelope. "I've kept this for 12 years. Daniel stared at it. "Why?" "Because I was told never to destroy it." "Who told you?" "The man who signed in as David Cole." Daniel carefully opened the envelope. Inside, there was no letter, no photograph. Just one tiny hospital wristband. It belonged to Ethan. Written across the plastic tag was something no one expected. Baby B. Daniel looked up. What happened to baby A? Kelly's eyes filled with tears. There wasn't supposed to be a baby B. There were twins. The room fell silent. Daniel's heart pounded. Twins? Kelly nodded. Sarah only ever took one baby home. Daniel couldn't speak. Every piece of evidence, every lie, every missing document, every strange visitor. Suddenly, nothing fit the story they thought they knew. If Kelly was telling the truth, then somewhere, for 12 years, There had been another child, and someone had spent all those years trying to find the one who survived. Daniel looked at Kelly. His voice was barely a whisper. "Where is the other baby?" Kelly slowly shook her head. "I don't know, but I know who does." She leaned closer, almost afraid someone might hear. "The answer is sitting in your courtroom every single day." End of Chapter 9. The person everyone trusted. The courtroom was silent. Daniel Carter hadn't slept for 2 nights. Every piece of evidence covered the wall of his office. Photographs, phone records, witness statements, maps, strings connected one clue to another. Yet, one question remained unanswered. Who benefited from Ethan's death? Not emotionally, financially. Daniel suddenly stopped. He looked again at the family photographs, then at the insurance documents, then at Michael Mitchell's will. His heartbeat slowed. Something wasn't right. Very wrong. Michael had rewritten his will 3 weeks before Ethan died. Everything he owned, the house, the life insurance, his business, would pass directly to Ethan on his 18th birthday. If Ethan died before turning 18, everything would go to one person. Not Sarah, not another relative. A private family trustee. Daniel read the name twice. He couldn't believe it. Jonathan Reed, the family's financial advisor. Daniel whispered, "No." He flipped through the case file again. Jonathan Reed had testified during the first week of the trial, only 10 minutes. No one questioned him, no one challenged him. He had calmly explained the family's finances, then left the courtroom, never to return. Daniel suddenly remembered something else. Jonathan Reed had been sitting only 3 rows behind Sarah during Ethan's funeral. He wasn't family. He wasn't a close friend. So why was he there? Daniel requested Reed's financial records. The judge approved the request immediately. Within hours, the documents arrived. The room fell silent. 3 months before Ethan's death, Jonathan Reed had transferred nearly $2 million to an account in another country. Daniel frowned. Where had that money come from? He turned another page. His blood ran cold. The transfer had been made 2 days after Michael Mitchell changed his will. At that exact moment, Daniel's investigator burst into the office. "We found the SUV!" Daniel stood up. "What? It wasn't stolen. It wasn't fake. It belongs to a company." "What company?" The investigator placed a folder on the desk. Daniel opened it. His hands froze. The company belonged to Jonathan Reed. Daniel didn't wait. He drove straight to Reed's office. The receptionist looked confused. "Mr. Reed left 20 minutes ago." "Where?" "I don't know." Daniel rushed outside. Rain had started again. Across the street, a black SUV slowly pulled away from the curb. Daniel recognized it immediately. He jumped into his car. The chase had begun. For the first time, the man who had quietly watched every court hearing was finally running. And innocent people don't usually run. The chase rain hammered the windshield. Daniel's car raced through downtown traffic. Ahead of him, the black SUV ignored a red light. Daniel grabbed his phone. "This is Daniel Carter. I need every available patrol unit. The suspect is heading east on Lincoln Avenue." The operator answered immediately. "Units are already on the way." But Daniel knew it might already be too late. Jonathan Reed wasn't running because he was afraid. He was running because something else had gone wrong. Every few seconds, he looked in the rearview mirror, not at Daniel, at another vehicle, a gray sedan, following them both. Daniel noticed it too. Whoever was inside wasn't interested in him. They were watching Jonathan. Suddenly, the SUV turned sharply into an abandoned warehouse district. Daniel followed. The streets became empty, silent. Jonathan stopped beside an old factory. He stepped out with his hands raised. Daniel slammed on the brakes. "Jonathan, don't move!" Jonathan slowly turned around. His face wasn't angry. It was terrified. "You don't understand." Daniel walked closer. "Ethan was murdered. People lied. You ran. Start talking." Jonathan whispered, "I wasn't running from you." He pointed behind Daniel. "I was running from him." Daniel spun around. The gray sedan had stopped 20 meters away. Its driver's door opened. A tall man stepped out. Dark coat, black baseball cap. Daniel recognized him instantly. The same man from Ethan's photograph. The same man from the soccer field. The same man from the security footage. "Uncle David." The man smiled. "My name isn't David." He reached into his pocket. Daniel reacted instantly. "Police, don't move!" But instead of a weapon, the man pulled out a worn leather wallet. Inside, a faded photograph. He tossed it onto the wet pavement. Daniel picked it up. His heart nearly stopped. The photograph showed Michael Mitchell, standing beside the stranger. Both men were smiling. Friends. Close friends. The date? 15 years earlier, long before Ethan was born. Jonathan closed his eyes. "I told Michael this day would come." Daniel looked at him. "You knew?" Jonathan nodded slowly. "All of us knew. Michael, me, and Detective Hayes." Daniel felt the ground disappear beneath him. "Then why didn't any of you stop him?" Jonathan answered quietly, "Because we thought he was dead." The stranger laughed, a slow, calm, almost cheerful laugh. "You buried the wrong man." Silence. Then he looked directly at Daniel. "You've spent weeks trying to solve Ethan's murder. You've asked the wrong question." Daniel frowned. "What question?" The man smiled. "You keep asking, who killed Ethan?" He took one slow step forward. "You should have asked, who was Ethan really supposed to become?" Daniel's heartbeat thundered in his ears. For the first time, he realized Ethan hadn't been chosen because of money. He hadn't been chosen because of revenge. He had been chosen for a secret buried long before he was born. And every person standing in the rain had been carrying part of that secret for years. The truth nobody wanted. Rain fell silently over the abandoned warehouse. No one spoke. Daniel Carter looked from Jonathan Reed to the man everyone knew as Uncle David. For 12 years, every answer had been hidden inside one simple lie. The stranger finally broke the silence. "My real name is David Walker. I grew up with Michael Mitchell. We were like brothers." Daniel waited. David continued, "When we were young, we built a business together. Michael handled the money. I trusted him." Jonathan closed his eyes. "David, stop!" But David ignored him. "One mistake destroyed everything. The company collapsed. I went to prison. Michael didn't." Daniel frowned. "So you came back for revenge?" David slowly shook his head. "No. I came back for answers." He reached into his coat and removed a faded envelope. Inside, court documents, old bank statements, letters. Everything Daniel had spent weeks searching for. David handed them over. "I never wanted Ethan. I wanted Michael." Daniel looked confused. "But Michael died years ago." David nodded. "I know. So I started watching the only people who might know the truth. Sarah, Ethan, Jonathan, Hayes. I believed one of them was hiding what Michael had taken." Silence. Then Daniel quietly asked, "Did you kill Ethan?" David's eyes filled with tears. "No. I swear to God, I didn't." Jonathan suddenly stepped forward. "I did." Everyone turned toward him. Daniel stared in disbelief. "What?" Jonathan's voice shook. "I didn't mean to kill him. He found the documents. He knew someone had been following him. He wanted to tell his mother. I panicked. I only wanted the papers." Ethan fought back. He hit his head. Jonathan covered his face. "I called Detective Hayes. I begged him to help." Hayes looked down. I thought Ethan might still survive. When the ambulance arrived, it was already too late. Daniel whispered, "So everything after that?" Hayes nodded. "We made the worst decision of our lives. We believed hiding the truth would protect Sarah, but every lie created another one." Jonathan collapsed onto his knees. "I destroyed an innocent family. I destroyed my own life. And I turned a grieving mother into the most hated woman in America." The courtroom reconvened 2 days later. It was completely full. Not a single empty seat remained. Jonathan Reed entered in handcuffs. This time, Sarah walked into the courtroom without chains. For the first time in 7 months, she was free. Judge Harper looks toward the jury. "The evidence now proves Sarah Mitchell had no involvement in her son's death." He paused, then spoke the words she had waited months to hear. "This court finds Sarah Mitchell not guilty on all charges." Sarah didn't cry. She didn't smile. She simply looked toward Ethan's empty chair and whispered, "I'm coming home." The words echoed through the silent courtroom. Outside, hundreds of reporters waited. Microphones surrounded Daniel Carter. One journalist asked, "Mr. Carter, when did you know Sarah was innocent?" Daniel looked back at the courthouse, then quietly answered, "I didn't. I only knew one thing. No investigation is complete until every question has been asked." He walked away. Behind him, the cameras continued recording. But no one noticed Sarah. She stood alone beneath the courthouse steps, holding the small silver star pendant, the last gift Ethan had ever given her. She closed her hand around it, looked toward the sky, and for the first time since losing her son, allowed herself to cry. Because justice could return her freedom, but it could never bring Ethan home.